everything that was planned. For a man with his background, such matters were of no worry. His body had been honed in conditions on the extreme ends of the spectrum, resulting in the ability to focus past sweat stinging his eyes or snow swirling in his face. Compared to what he had experienced, circumstances didn't get any better than what he was currently working with, an unspoken nod from the gods that they saw and approved of what he was doing. He was on a mission, something far greater and stemming from a much higher purpose than any other he had ever been on. There was no way a little bit of cool concrete was going to stop that. Heightening the effects of the sensory limitation was the visual field that he was working with. Already cut in half by his left eye pinched shut, the totality of what he could see was limited to a single circle, the four corners of his vision blacked out by the parameters of the shooting scope he was staring through. No sounds, no weather, no vision, save the single enclosed circle. Not even a smell, his twice-busted nose keeping all but the most aggressive of aromas at bay. The moment had been months in coming, every last day in the interim spent under intense preparation. The most difficult part of the process had been choosing the optimal location. The goal was to find some place that would reach out and slap people, would get their attention, and demand they look his direction. Only once he had their focus, once he knew that they were sitting up and listening, could he truly begin to push forward on his plan. His first thoughts had been to launch directly forward, to go with an approach that left little doubt, making sure that as fine a point as possible was put on his motives. If that didn't work, he would do it again, and again, and again. As many times as necessary until the message was driven home and appropriate action was taken. Over the course of his preparation, such an approach was cast aside, reasoning winning out, managing to worm past the veneer of anger he wore like armor. Going straight to the final point right out of the gate would make it too easy. People may write him off as a crazy, another heretic with a gun, just the latest in a rash of domestic terrorists that had been ravaging the countryside in the preceding years. Jaeger was none of those things. He was a patriot, a loyal soldier that had done everything asked of him. Never could he be considered a terrorist in any sense of the word, though he did share one key characteristic with them. He had a message that needed to be heard. Doing it this way was not his preferred delivery method, but after being ignored for the better part of 2 years, it was the only remaining way. No part of him wanted it to be like this, but then again no part of him remained that felt like he had a choice. If ever there was going to be any progress, any change to the way things were, this was how it would go. It had to. With the stock of the rifle wedged against his collarbone, Jaeger clamped it in place with his cheek on one side, his deltoids on the other. Running his hand along the bottom of the stock, he placed the familiar weight of the weapon into the palm of his hand, everything but his index finger used as support, lifting the base from the ground. The barrel of the gun he supported with his opposite hand, his body flat against the concrete, his elbows pressed tight against it, scraping over the rough surface. It was a position he had held no less than 100,000 times before, muscle memory converting the pose in an instant, reacting exactly the way he knew it would. There was no accident to the fact that all other senses had been blotted away. Every fiber of his being had been conditioned to know what occurred when he took this stance, a single jolt of adrenaline passing into his system, warming him in a way he hadn't known in a long time. The faintest hint of a smile flickered at Jaeger's lips, disappearing as fast as it had arrived. Whatever joy he derived from the position, from the action he was about to perform, it was completely outweighed by the sadness that had precipitated it. No part of him actually wanted to do this, even less wanted to dwell on the reasons that had pushed him into doing so. Still, he had no choice. It had to be done. Pulling in long breaths through his nose,